This is the AA Daily Reflections for March 15th. The God idea. When we saw others solve their problem by simple reliance upon the Spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. It's from page 52 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like a blind man gradually being restored to sight, I slowly groped my way to the third step. Having realized that only a power greater than myself could rescue me from the hopeless abyss I was in, I knew that this was a power that I had to grasp, and that it would be my anchor in the midst of a sea of woes. Even though my faith at the time was minuscule, it was big enough to make me see that it was time for me to discard my reliance on my prideful ego and replace it with the steadying strength that could only come from a power greater than myself. Whew. So I glanced through that right before I turned the camera on, and the thing that jumped out at me was the first time I realized that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it's interesting they use the term sea of woes, that it would be my anchor in the midst of a sea of woes. Because the first time I realized that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself was when I was in the Navy. There was an incident with drinking in the Navy, and it pretty much destroyed my career. However, it also saved my life, because that was the first time I started going to AA. And there was a big situation that was going on in the Navy. They were trying to throw me out because of some medical stuff. Anyway, that's a story in and of itself. That's part of my real story, my AA story. The point I'm trying to make is that I was kind of in a holding pattern for over a year when they didn't know what to do with me. So because of this situation, and it was a legal situation, but it was a military legal situation, so it wasn't really like, I don't know how to say it. It was a military thing, right? But I had a military lawyer. So I was doing all the things that I was supposed to be doing, and this was dragging on for 6 months, and then it drug on for over a year. And I remember going to see my lawyer once, and the people at the desk were like, "Oh, he's in Afghanistan. They didn't tell you that?" And I was like, "No, they didn't tell me that." So I was kind of dejected. I didn't know what to do. I didn't really have anybody advocating on my part. And I was walking through the hallway where I worked in Pensacola, Florida. And this was also a time where I had kind of been going in and out of the program. So I'd get 45 days, I'd go back out. I'd get 60 days, I'd go drink again. So I don't think at that point I had a year of sobriety, but I do think I had the longest stretch of sobriety that I had had up to that point. Anyway, super dejected, walking down the hall. Long time later, had been going to a lot of meetings and been doing everything that everybody told me to do. I saw someone in the hallway that I recognized. And it was someone I had served with. But it was someone that I had served with when I was enlisted, and now I was an officer. And he was also an officer. I didn't know that he had put in an officer package or got commissioned. And if you're not familiar with the Navy, getting a commission when you're an enlisted person is kind of a big deal. It's kind of hard to do. So I walked up to him and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Not good." I had a whole pack of all the files and everything, and we met another day. I gave him the files, and he went through it all. Well, it turns out that he was in charge of officer redesignation. Just bear with me. I know all these terms don't make any sense. The point is, I had gone from the standpoint of I was going to get thrown out of the Navy under it wouldn't be like a bad discharge, but it would be a general discharge, which isn't the greatest. You want an honorable discharge. Anyway, all of a sudden I get a letter that I was going to get let out with an honorable discharge. And I had been put into this program called the Reduction in Forces. This was after 9/11. They had a ton of people, so they were discharging people, extra people. And I was an extra person. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that I got an honorable discharge. Not only that, I got a severance package because I had been in for a long time. But coming back to the program and God, it was the first time that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And it was directly after I really surrendered to the program, not knowing what the outcome was going to be, and being fine with it, even though it could be a bad outcome, or what I perceived to be a bad outcome. And at that point, I was like, oh, God is real and he's working in my life. And that was, I guess, my Rubicon as far as being all in. It was a watershed moment in my sobriety of being all in on this AA thing because what everybody had said was true. And I couldn't deny it because the chances that we would both have become officers, the chances that we were both in that same hallway at the same time, that he got an assignment on the same base, in the same hallway, I mean, the odds are astronomical. And that was what made me realize that a power greater than myself was rescuing me from the hopeless abyss that I was in. But I just did the work. I went to meetings. I was working the steps. So what do you think about today's daily reflections? Put it in the comments. Thanks for watching.